Concerns of some stuff they may have found in your room?
Yeah, I believe so.
And what would it be?
A human head and hands.
You'd agree the Case family certainly knows how dangerous you are, right?
Well, yes. I could be considered dangerous, yes. I smile because it's funny that all the people in there have no idea who they're messing with.
The defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder, is charged in the indictment.
What would you do if the person you trusted most, someone you called family, suddenly turned on you in the most unimaginable way? Could a teenager really commit an act so shocking that it shakes an entire community, leaving questions about mental health, warning signs, and human behavior in its wake? In this video, we dive deep into one of the most chilling true crime cases in recent history, exploring the events that led to tragedy, the courtroom battles that followed, and the shocking consequences. In March 2024, a quiet neighborhood in Mississippi became the center of a case that shocked the community and captured national attention. What unfolded inside one family's home was the kind of tragedy that leaves more questions than answers about mental health, warning signs, family dynamics, and the thin line between adolescence and irreversible decisions. At the center of it all was 15-year-old Carly Madison Gregg, a teenager who would soon stand in a courtroom facing charges of first-degree murder and attempted murder. The case began with what seemed like a typical parental concern. According to testimony later presented in court, Carly's parents had discovered troubling items in her room vape pens and possible drugs. Concerned, one of Carly's friends had alerted her own mother, which ultimately led to Carly's mother, 40-year-old schoolteacher Ashley Smiley, confronting her daughter. On March 19, 2024, after school, Ashley and Carly rode home together. What happened next would unravel in a matter of minutes, but its consequences would last forever. Prosecutors described a sequence of events that painted a chilling picture. Once inside the home, Ashley reportedly went into Carly's bedroom to search for the suspected contraband. According to the state, Carly did not remain in her room. Instead, they argued, she walked directly to her parents' bedroom, went to her mother's side of the bed, and retrieved a .357 Magnum handgun stored under the mattress. Evidence presented at trial suggested that she then peeked into the kitchen area to ensure her mother had not yet come out. With the weapon hidden behind her back, she allegedly returned to her own bedroom. Moments later, 3 shots were fired. Ashley Smiley was struck and killed inside the home. Security footage from a living room camera reportedly captured parts of the aftermath, though the most critical moments occurred out of view. According to the prosecution, the shooting was not impulsive in the sense of being accidental. They contended that Carly had deliberately retrieved the firearm and acted with intent. After shooting her mother, Carly allegedly texted a friend, asking her to come over and see what she had done. That message would later become a key point in the prosecution's case. The state argued that this communication demonstrated awareness and control rather than confusion or disorientation.
That Carly Gregg rides in the car home with her mother from school to their house. When they get inside the house, it's only their 2 dogs, Ashley Smiley and Carly Gregg. Ashley then goes into Carly's room. Ashley finds 4 boxes that contain vape pens. Almost immediately, upon Carly coming inside the house, she walks straight to her parents' bedroom. That she goes straight to her mom's side of the bed and removes a .357 Magnum from under the mattress.
But the events did not end there. Investigators said Carly then took her mother's phone and impersonated her. She texted her 39-year-old stepfather, Heath Smiley, asking him to return home. Unaware of what had happened, Heath came back to the residence. As he entered, he too was shot. However, in a desperate struggle, he managed to wrestle the gun away from Carly and call 911. The 911 call, later played in court, was chaotic and emotional. Heath initially reported that he had been grazed in the neck. During the call, he revealed that his wife was lying on the floor, shot and unresponsive. The operator stayed on the line until deputies arrived. Body camera footage from the first responding officers showed a scene of devastation. Heath injured and distraught, Ashley motionless inside the home. Emergency medical personnel treated Heath for his gunshot wound and transported him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Carly and her friend fled the scene. A few hours later, law enforcement located and arrested Carly Gregg. Footage shown during the trial depicted officers calmly placing her in handcuffs and conducting standard procedures, including swabbing her hands for gunshot residue. In court, the prosecution laid out its narrative in detail. They described Carly's actions as deliberate and calculated. The retrieval of the firearm, the text messages, and the attempt to lure Heath home were presented as evidence of premeditation. One of the most striking statements referenced by prosecutors was a message allegedly sent after the shooting. "I put 3 in my mom and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad." To the state, this did not sound like the words of someone unaware of her actions. The defense, however, presented a very different picture.
Yes, sir. Okay, just calm down for me. We got everybody hands up. What? They killed her mom! She killed her mom? Yeah! Everyone's screaming about
Carly's attorneys argued that the tragedy was rooted in undiagnosed mental illness. They told jurors that there were not just 2 victims on March 19th, but 3, Ashley Smiley, Heath Smiley, and Carly Gregg herself. According to the defense, Carly had been suffering from a serious mental health disorder that neither she nor her parents fully understood. They emphasized that mental illness is not always visible, and that even close friends and family can miss the signs. The defense maintained that Carly did not fully comprehend the nature or consequences of her actions at the time of the shooting. They asked the jury to find her not guilty by reason of insanity, arguing that the events were tragic, but not intentional in the legal sense. Mental health experts were brought in to discuss her psychological state, though the prosecution challenged those conclusions, pointing to what they viewed as evidence of planning and awareness. Witnesses took the stand over the course of the trial. The 911 operator described the frantic call from Heath. The responding officer recounted entering the home and encountering the grim scene. Video footage shown in court captured moments of confusion and anguish. At times during testimony, Carly appeared emotional. Ultimately, the jury deliberated for only a few hours. When they returned, their decision was clear. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. The verdict rejected the insanity defense. Carly was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The case left a community grappling with how such violence could erupt within a family. It also sparked broader conversations about adolescent mental health, access to firearms, and the warning signs that may go unnoticed until it is too late. For many, the central question lingered. Was this the act of a calculating teenager, or the tragic culmination of an untreated psychological crisis? As disturbing as the Gregg case was, another case involving a teenager in a different state revealed an even darker layer of violence. In Medina, Ohio, 17-year-old Gavin Ramsey faced murder charges in connection with the death of his 98-year-old neighbor, Margaret Douglas. On April 6, 2018, Ramsey entered Douglas's home. According to investigators, he strangled her and committed additional degrading acts against her body. Authorities later stated that he recorded the crime on his phone, took photographs, and stuffed her body into a closet. He allegedly remained in the house long enough to ransack it and search for valuables before leaving. 3 days later, a concerned family member called 911 after being unable to reach Margaret Douglas. Newspapers had accumulated on her porch, an unusual sign for the elderly woman who lived alone but was known to be attentive to her routine. Police conducted a welfare check and made the grim discovery inside her home. During the investigation, authorities focused on Ramsey. When questioned, he initially offered vague explanations, describing his actions as a terrible accident. But as detectives pressed further and examined his phone, the evidence became overwhelming. Eventually, he confessed to details of the crime. Transcripts of his interrogation revealed chilling statements. He described entering the home without fully knowing what he intended to do.
Please?
Yes, this is Howard Leisure. My aunt lives on Portage Street. A friend of ours stopped over there yesterday to check on her, and she was nowhere to be found.
Okay.
He says papers were on the porch for the last 3 days.
What's her name?
Margaret Douglas. We don't know where she's at. She's 98 years old.
Did she live there by herself?
She lives there by herself, yeah. And she never locks her house.
Police went to his phone. He broke down and admitted to the murder.
Were you in her house for a little while before you woke her up?
I mean, I came up on the porch, and I didn't even know what I was gonna do. And I looked in the window and everything. I don't know, I felt like going into the house. It's like the biggest adrenaline rush I could get.
He recounted the moments leading up to the killing and the aftermath. The recorded footage on his phone became critical evidence in the case, documenting the brutality in a way that left little room for doubt about what had occurred. The Ramsey case, like the Gregg case, raised difficult questions about youth violence. What drives a teenager to commit such acts? How do communities identify warning signs before tragedy strikes? And what role do mental health, environment, and access to vulnerable victims play in these outcomes? Both cases underscore a sobering reality. Extreme violence is not confined to any one demographic or circumstance. In one instance, the setting was a family home, a confrontation between parent and child that escalated into irreversible horror. In the other, it was a quiet neighborhood where trust between neighbors was shattered. For the families involved, the consequences are permanent. Heath Smiley survived but lost his wife and saw his stepdaughter sentenced to spend her life in prison. The family of Margaret Douglas lost a 98-year-old woman who had lived independently for decades. Communities were left shaken, grappling with fear and grief. These cases also highlight the complexities of the legal system when dealing with juvenile defendants. Courts must weigh accountability against age, intent against mental state, and public safety against rehabilitation. When juries deliberate, they are not just deciding guilt or innocence, they are confronting profound moral questions about responsibility and consequence. In the end, the courtroom provides a verdict, but it rarely provides closure. The headlines fade, the trials conclude, and sentences are handed down. Yet the deeper questions remain. How can tragedies like these be prevented? What systems failed, if any? And how can families, schools, and communities better recognize and respond to warning signs? The stories of Carly Gregg and Gavin Ramsey are not just crime reports. They are reminders of how quickly lives can unravel, how hidden struggles can escalate, and how devastating the ripple effects of violence can be. For those seeking to understand such events, the answers are rarely simple. They lie at the intersection of psychology, family dynamics, social environment, and individual choice, an intersection that continues to challenge society long after the courtroom doors close. If you want to uncover more shocking true crime stories and dive deep into the events, motives, and mysteries behind them, hit that subscribe button and join us. You won't want to miss what's coming next.